Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. Joining me tonight is Joe. Jason is off the Reading Fightins tonight, and we tried to get on Monday, but Jason was having issues getting onto the stream. Not sure computer what was going on there, but Jason sent his thoughts along, so we'll still have those to pull from. Joe, how are you holding up tonight, bud?
Holding up okay, man. Holding up okay. I appreciate you guys attempting to hold things down Monday, but it's good to be back on and talk some baseball. So,
Hey, technology's going to happen sometimes, there's nothing you can do about it. All right, so Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm sticking with the Sean's, the Irish whiskey from Sean's Bar over in Ireland. The oldest bar in Ireland, opened in 900 AD. So enjoying that a little bit. Very smooth, very tasty, and then splashing a little bit of the Pepsi version of Sprite on there, the Starry, a little bit, just to take a little bit of the edge off. But enjoying that tonight.
Formerly known as Sierra Mist.
Right.
I still don't know was it was somebody's name and they filed suit, or was it
Something like that?
Okay.
Something like that. I don't know the particulars, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, stuff happens. So we just had Father's Day on Sunday. Hopefully everybody was able to spend some time with their dads. My dad was actually not in Pennsylvania. He and Mom are up in Maine right now, having a nice little vacation up in Bar Harbor. But got to spend some time with my father-in-law instead. It was a wonderful day. Baseball, as always, as they do for Mother's Day, they get out the pink gear, and Father's Day they got out the blue gear. I got a new shirt that I'll be wearing to some games now. It says a huge baseball fan. I love Life is Good. Their whole product line has some absolutely fantastic stuff. Highly recommended. You check it out. All sports too. It's not just baseball. I've got a lot of baseball, but I've got a lot of golf and non-sports related as well. So like I said, Major League Baseball did the blue stuff. I know I saw, Joe, that Atlanta, for all the players' placards in the locker room, they pulled down the regular placards and they put up placards as if it was their father. So like Acuna was Ronald Acuna Sr., and they had pictures of the dads out. Mike Riley was up there. Mike Riley actually threw the first pitch out for the Braves on Sunday to Austin, which was really cool to see. I'm sure other teams did stuff like that too. As we pointed out, baseball in the one-offs, they always do a good job with it.
The Cubs did a really nice job with this too. They had the kids on the field with the dads prior to the game, so that was really cool, particularly with the lineups and stuff. So that was neat to see. But like you said, they always get the one-offs pretty good, and doing the blue and the pink that they do for Mother's Day, Father's Day. It's a nice touch to show some growth outside the sport. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Show some love into the people that got you to practice for years when you were a kid, and
right.
have been your biggest fans the whole way through. So I love seeing it. If I remember right, they donate some proceeds from Mother's Day to breast cancer, and I believe Father's Day to prostate cancer awareness.
Yeah, that's my understanding, which is a good thing. So
absolutely, you cannot have too much money going to cancer research ever, especially when the government seems to be making random wholesale cuts to things without necessarily understanding what they're cutting. All right. On that note, Father's Day did actually get overshadowed by a major trade that came down on Sunday. The Red Sox and the trade isn't a surprise, but the fact that they traded Rafael Devers to the Giants, and it wasn't the biggest haul in return that they absolutely could have gotten. They got back Kyle Harris, Jordan Hicks, and at least one of them's already been optioned down or DFA'd. They got a good outfielder prospect in James Tibb, who is San Francisco's number 4 prospect. And they also got a rookie-level pitcher, Jose Bello, who wasn't in the top 30 for the Giants, but based on how he's pitching in rookie ball this year, when they release either the mid-year updates for the rookie prospects or next year when more people fall off the prospect list because they've matriculated off or dropped, Bello will very likely be a Red Sox top 30 prospect at that point. But that's all they got. Now, granted, the Red Sox are not sending any money over to cover any of the contract. But first of all, I was surprised that the Red Sox didn't get more. I love Tibbs. I love Bello. I think those are great prospects to get. But Devers is one of the elite hitters in the game right now. I feel like they could have gotten more, like the major league guys, they could have done better than Kyle Harris and Jordan Hicks.
I guess you could argue that, but offloading $250 million in money is not a bad deal here. So
That is true.
regardless of who they get back, offloading the money is by far more important. In the grand scheme of things. So I will say this. I mean, this trade came out of nowhere on Sunday.
Yeah.
And anyone who expected it is lying, because there was no indication they were going to do something like this. And Devers hit I think either I don't know if it was a walk-off, but he had either a walk-off hit or a homer at some point during the game on Sunday. Finished the post-game interview, and then an hour or two later he was traded. So, I mean, a lot happened on Sunday that most people, I don't think, anticipated.
He was actually taken off the team plane, like deboarded from the team plane and told, "Hey, you've been traded. Good luck getting there."
Right.
Which,
and
that, I understand things have not been great between Devers and management, but I know Devers has enough money, he could literally just hire a random pilot to charter himself, but I don't know about that, man. That's kind of
well, when you look at this, though, I think a couple of things that you have to factor in is that, number one, obviously Devers was unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the team was a little frustrated. Who's to blame? We'll kind of, I'm sure, hear more as things go along. But I mean, is it surprise? I guess I'm not surprised they did it in the long. And looking back, obviously, and Buster Posey is kind of showing that, hey, like, look, if I can get guys who can help us win now, I'm going to do it. I don't really care. He's getting the leash to do it, which is also a fantastic thing if you're a fan of the Giants. The fact that Posey's kind of getting the runway to do this, and the fact that you only have to give up 4 guys for a top of the line hitter when he wants to hit and plays well. I mean, to soak up the money and being in a position like the Giants are, where you're not even going to hit the first level of the tax, like, sign me up for that. I would do that every day of the week if I'm Buster Posey. I mean, it's a brilliant move by Posey and the Giants. How the Red Sox have handled it is kind of, par for the course. I mean, I think the fact that Devers gets introduced by the Giants and he automatically says he'll play wherever they want him to play, and they're saying, hey, you're going to play first in DH, it just shows you that how badly Boston handled this, from the jump before they even signed Bregman, which if you had plans of signing Bregman, you needed to sit Devers down and go, look, here's where we see this going. You're either going to back up Bregman on an off day, you're going to DH, and obviously they couldn't foresee. I guess it's Casas going down, right? I think that's the right guy.
Yeah, Tristan Casas.
The Red Sox. That you couldn't foresee that happening. But I think if you had been upfront with Devers before you signed Bregman, clearly that wouldn't have been a problem that it turned into.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to say there. Great for the Giants. The biggest negative out of this is the way Boston fans reacted to this, because there's a ton of stuff out there where they were, doxing John Henry and doxing some of the organization.
Yeah, that needs
threatening the guys for trading. And don't get me wrong, I get why Red Sox fans are angry, because you've traded away Betts, Sale, and Devers in the span of about 6 years?
Roughly? Yeah, about 6 years.
So I get the frustration as a Sox fan, but at the same time, come on, guys, it's just a freaking game.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, let's go back to what I said after McCullers was getting death threats. Fans need to be better. This crap needs to stop. Management's going to do things you don't like. Players are not always going to perform, and that's just the nature of the game. Even Aaron Judge is not going to go 5 for 5 with 5 home runs every game.
No.
You're going to have games where you go 0 for 5 and you strike out 4 times. Let it go. Stop it. And you know what? If you're so backed up into gambling debt that this actually causes you financial harm, then you need to reevaluate the choices you're making and seek treatment and help.
I mean, we all know that fan is short for fanatics, so I get some of the frustration there. But at the same time, like you said, first off, it's a game. Second off, you know, if people had more of a right focus and priority in life, like this wouldn't be as big a deal as it is. And the other thing too is that like I just I don't get it. Yeah, you could be upset. I mean, I've made no bones about how I feel about Jed and the Ricketts in the off season, but at the same time, I'm not gonna threaten their lives by any means when they don't do something I want them to do. Like it's time to just kind of dial it back and stop doing the dumb stuff.
Exactly.
And I think
Now,
when you have punishment for some of these keyboard and phone warriors, then it'll really start to sink in and change behavior a bit. So I mean, there's got to be some accountability at some point for some of this nonsense. You can't be anonymous anymore. And that's true about just about everybody. Nobody's really anonymous anymore.
no, definitely not.
So,
one other thing to look at with this, because first of all, I don't think there is a GM in the world who would not pull the trigger on that trade if given the opportunity, especially giving up just 2 prospects, only one of which is currently a top 30. I'm gonna give you a list here, Joe. This is a list of the last time teams had a 30 home run player. 2024 Diamondbacks, Athletics, Braves, Orioles, Red Sox, Guardians, Astros, Royals, Dodgers, Brewers, Mets, Yankees, Phillies, Mariners, Rangers, Blue Jays. 2023 White Sox, Tigers, Angels, Marlins, Padres, Rays. 22 Cardinals. 21 Reds and Twins. 19 Cubs, Rockies, Pirates, Nationals. 2004 San Francisco. That was Barry Bonds. That's how long it has been since the Giants have had a 30 home run hitter. 2004 with Barry freaking Bonds. To say that this is a team that has been hurting for power for years is probably the biggest understatement in baseball.
Well, and especially because they've gotten an underperforming Adames to this point, which is not what they were anticipating, to be honest, when they made that deal. And Chapman being hurt at the time now is kind of, obviously put some strings into place. But they've been performing well as a club, and they're in a position to make a move, and it was a smart thing to do.
It's a great move. I'd make that trade 100 times out of 100.
And as long as it's been since they've had a 30 home run hitter, it's also been about as long since they've had consistency in left field, because they've had a different opening day starter in left field for a number of years now. I don't know how many, but it's a lot. So to sort of hopefully get some consistency in that lineup is going to be huge for them, because they put themselves in good position before they made this trade, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, if I'm the Dodgers, I'm worried, because they're only 3.5 games ahead of the Giants right now. So, and I know the Giants are on a little bit of a skid. The Dodgers are starting to heat back up again a little bit, but that was absolutely a slightly power shifting move, because I think this moves San Francisco up as the clear favorite for number 2 and has the talent now to push for number 1 in that division. I think this puts them ahead of the Padres.
I mean, I will say this: McCovey's a hard place to hit homers in.
Yeah.
But I mean, the rest of that division is probably not nearly as bad as outside of Yankee Stadium, the AL East. You know, especially to right field. But like, I mean, so there's a lot of chance for him to not only have home run stats, but to have extra base hits, RBIs, all the good stuff that isn't the long ball. So, I mean, there's a chance for him to grow as a player here too. And I would imagine, I mean, I forget how much time is left on this deal, but it's a significant amount of time that you're going to be, in the Bay Area trying to have some success, and it puts him in a really good spot.
2033.
Yeah.
Yep, he signed through 2033. He's already at 15 homers this year, hitting 274. Already at 2.4 WAR on the season. That's without fielding at all. I like the trade. He's going to do good things for the Giants, and they absolutely won this trade. I mean, the only way the Red Sox are going to be able to make the trade to split is if Tibbs and Bello get to the majors. One of them's at least an all-star for a couple years. And even then, I'm not completely sure that you can say that unless the two of them or at least one of them helps lead to a World Series, I'm not sure you're ever going to be able to say the Red Sox even split that trade. But let's be real. This is the franchise that traded Babe Ruth for pennies on the dollar. So they're not exactly known for making the most astute trades.
Yeah, and I think, obviously it's hard to say now right now the clear winner is the Giants. But if in 6 years from now, the Red Sox have more World Series and they have more division titles, I mean, it kind of shifts it the other way. But I think it certainly puts them in a prime position to make the moves they need to make in the NL West and throughout the NL in general. So it's a huge move by them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much in favor of it. And by the way, just FYI, at the time of the trade, Devers was leading the AL in walks at 56, and I believe he's probably close to the lead in the NL at 56 walks. I know he had a really rough start with strikeouts, but he's really righted the ship back around. He's at 78 strikeouts in the season, so the walk decay ratio is looking a lot better than it was in the first week, which we knew it would. Anybody drawing conclusions about season-long results after the first week or even the first month is insane. So, and
unless you're the Rockies.
Well, yeah. The moment Mike Dolan said that they were going to be a 100-win team a couple years ago, I was like, okay, somebody's smoking the Rocky Mountain product out there, and they're not sharing with the rest of us. All right, so let's. Speaking of other stats that are sometimes taken out of context, Shohei Ohtani is pitching again. He started Monday night for the Padres. Not the greatest outing. Not that anybody that expected Shohei to, first of all, to pitch more than one or maybe two innings is nuts, because they weren't going to risk that. That would have been absolutely stupid. And the Dodgers are many things. Stupid is not one of them when it comes to managing throughout the season generally. Playoff management and Davey Roberts, we can always talk about that because Davey doesn't always pull the right strings there. But during the regular season, he generally does a better job when you look at the average for the whole year. Now he does stupid things like pulling Clayton Kershaw out when he was on his way to a perfect game. I still think that was dumb as hell. But anyway, Shohei's outing. He made it through an entire inning. He gave up 2 hits and earned run. He threw a wild pitch. He faced 5 batters. Through 28 pitches, I think. No strikeouts, no walks. And of course, Sarah Lang's the stat at one of ESPN's favorite stat casters had to point out, first of all, a useless stat is that Shohei's 79 home runs are the most in Dodgers history by a player to start at least one game on the mound for them. Number 2 is Don Drysdale at 20. Who cares? Sarah, that's a useless waste of time stat, because the only time that stat actually means something is with the New York Yankees and Babe Ruth. Okay, let's forget about even though Ruth played for the Braves, like at the tail end of his career and had a couple. I don't even care to look at that stat because it doesn't matter. Now this one, his 100.2 mile per hour pitch tied for the second fastest of the season for the Dodgers. Now that was notable because I'm sure that one actually really did terrify Dodgers management when they saw Shohei getting himself so amped up that he was throwing 100 when it was supposed to be his first outing back and he was supposed to ease into it. I'm sure they weren't wild about that. Joe, what are you thinking? I know the Dodgers, they're hurting for pitching. We know this, but his bat's incredibly valuable. Should they be throwing him on the mound and risking his arm where they might potentially then lose him if he hurts his arm, and they might lose the bat for a little bit too?
I mean, selfishly, as a fan of another team in the NL in general, yeah, sure, go ahead. But I mean, I don't necessarily understand the emphasis on trying to bring him back to pitching. I mean, I'm not saying that he wasn't good when he did pitch when he first debuted in the league, but I mean, when you've had, I believe now 2 Tommy John surgeries, um, I don't know that I would bet on him lasting long as a starting pitcher. Um, so I mean, do I think it's worth it in the sense of the game? No, I don't. Do I get why they're doing it? Yeah, because they're hurting for pitching because they didn't sign some guys, and some guys that they did sign aren't panning out the way that they hoped they would, or they've been hurt, and vice versa. So I mean, do I get why they're doing it? Sure. Do I think he's probably an opener at best? Probably. If I'm a Dodger fan, I want him pitching 1 or 2 innings tops, and that's about it. Because I don't necessarily want to lose that bat in the lineup. Now, the way that they've, obviously tweaked the rules to make this whole thing work with him leaving the game as a pitcher and still being in the lineup is just stupid. The fact that you don't lose your spot in the batting order because you come out of the game pitching wise is a really dumb thing. Nobody else is going to use this rule. I mean, this isn't like the Carlos Zambrano years where you're going to put Big Z up there in the 9th inning to hit a homer. Like this isn't how this is gonna work. Like this rule is specifically designed for Shohei Ohtani. And so it's kind of annoying in that respect. Does he need to be a pitcher to justify the contract? No, because they knew he wasn't going to be a pitcher for a year when they signed him to the dang deal. I mean, he doesn't need to pitch to justify the money that they're spending on him. If you're a Dodger fan, I mean, and if you're a fan of the sport in general, because the bat is just must-see TV. Let's I may not like it, but it's must-see TV. Like it is.
Yeah.
He's a generational hitter. I mean, I don't know that he's plate vision, plate discipline on the same level as Juan Soto, but he's still a generational talent.
Yeah.
I mean, to say anything else than that is just being naive and stupid. So, generational talent as a hitter, do I think he needs to pitch? No. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head with some of the overreaction. Like don't get me wrong, I love Sarah Langs when it comes to weird stats and fun stuff, but like this is just stupid.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yeah.
Because it's 1 inning. He hasn't pitched in 2 years. And if this were Kyle Hendricks coming off Tommy John, you wouldn't have the same reaction.
Nope.
Like you're not going to have the same reaction next year when Justin Steele comes back from Tommy John and throws a perfect game in his first start out. If he does that, mark this down. But like, you're not going to do the same thing on X or social media when Justin Steele does that. So don't do that with this. Like MLB has gotten themselves into a fever dream with this whole Ohtani thing because don't get me, like I said, to argue he's not a generational talent is stupid. But to emphasize every single thing he does is just annoying to the casual fan or to the regular fan because you're just like, I've seen, Rafi Devers. I mean, to Pete Crow Armstrong, like the stuff that some of these other guys are doing throughout the league gets constantly overshadowed by their love fest with Ohtani. So, I mean, to point out the stupid stats that were pointed out there, to emphasize his return as if it was this big deal. It feels like it was staged because all of a sudden it's on MLB Network. Like as soon as they announce he's going to pitch on Monday, it's like, okay, so this is a little this is a little too much. Like this is, this makes wrestling look real. Let's be honest. So, like, not that wrestling isn't real as far as the athleticism. I'm not going to start it. I don't want the 3CT guys to get mad at me because I love wrestling. But like, this makes some of the wrestling stuff that we get upset about look more real than the nonsense with this. Like, this is completely ridiculous. To sort of stage this and have, MLB Network carry the game as soon as it's announced, and like to highlight his line without pointing out the number of pitches he threw, without pointing out his ERA on the graphic, which is 9, by the way. And to fans of the sport, Anthony Rizzo has a lower ERA than Shohei Ohtani. Let's just be honest.
So I mean, one of the greatest strikeouts ever, Freddie.
Well, yeah, I mean that goes without saying. So the overall, like, do I get why they pitched him? Sure. Do I agree with the rest of the nonsense that goes with it? No, it's just stupid.
Honestly, if they want to use Shohei, throw him in the bullpen. Use him as a setup or a closer.
I mean, I feel like when someone's a starter and they've grown up a starter, there's something mental about not starting.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think moving him to the bullpen may not make a lot of sense. I think this opener position is a good place to go with it if you're going to use him. I think it's an inning or two tops, depending on how many he throws in an inning, which, I mean, again, MLB, you're going to show the 2 hits, 1 run thing, show how many pitches he threw and show what his ERA is, because everybody else is by those metrics too. So
it's like 28 freaking pitches. You can tell he was overamped and overthrowing.
Well, and it's 28 pitches in the game, and that doesn't count the 50 you threw in the bullpen before the game started. So let's be honest here. Like, the whole return to the mound was overhyped, and I could see them using him in an opener role, and it makes sense in that capacity. But expecting this guy to go, more than a couple innings, and like you said, with the pitching staff in general, from I know I used this pun in the group chat, but it's funny here. From prior experience, you would think that their pitching staff would not throw guys who have been hurt regularly out there in heavy use cases. For those who don't understand the reference, Mark Pryor, former beleaguered and much injured pitcher for the Cubs, is the pitching coach for the Dodgers. So,
yeah. If anybody would know that, it's Pryor. And I love Pryor. He was fun to watch. Oh, my God, the dude could not stay healthy. Hell of a pitcher, though, when he was. You pointed out some of the roastings MLB on Fox's Twitter account received for Shohei's great outing in 9.0 ERA. Put it in the loo for people still stuck in traffic and his night is over. Yeah, the love fest needs to calm down a little bit. He is still just a human, and it was not a good outing pitching wise. So that's all I'm going to say on it. But not the best.
It's one thing, like, just to sort of expand on that a little bit. It's one thing to call it, like, to highlight the fact that he's back on the mound. Fine, cool. Like, it's cool. He's back pitching. Let's see what it turns into. But to make it into this big spectacle, and then in the same token, you have a guy, and this sounds like homerism, but it's not. You have a guy who has 19 home runs already, most home runs by an outfielder since Sosa, and who MLB says is having a breakout year. I'm sorry. Like, this guy is having an all-star style year, and it's only the middle of June.
Yeah.
Like, breakout year doesn't cover it. Breakout year covers April and May. That doesn't cover where we're at now.
And let's be real. If he was coming off an injured year and hitting like this, you could say breakout, or maybe not breakout, but there's other language you can use. Like, Acuna's return's been hot as hell coming off of a season-ending injury. That is more of a breakout than what Shohei has done this year, even at the plate. And it's been not to take anything away from the season Shohei is having, but he's not coming off an injury. He's not coming off anything crazy, and he's thrown one inning as a pitcher. Let's back it up a little bit. Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. One of these years, Joe, maybe the Shohei Love Fest will calm down and go back to normal, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
All I can say is don't bet on it.
Yeah. Womp womp. All right. I've got the down on the farm players this week. So first up, our hitter from the AAA Memphis Redbirds, the AAA affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals. Shortstop, Thomas Sojasi. Yes, I just looked it up because I knew I was going to butcher it otherwise. Last week, he had a slash line of 611, 682, 722. In 5 games, he had 18 at-bats, 3 runs, 11 hits, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts, 1 stolen base, and 2 caught stealing. Absolutely fantastic week for that young man. I especially love the 4 walks to 3 strikeouts while hitting at a high clip like that. Then our pitcher is Jonah Tong, a starting pitcher with the Binghamton Rumble Ponies, the New York Mets AA affiliate. Another one of the great minor league nicknames, the Rumble Ponies. 2 starts last week, 1-0, a 1.74 ERA. He threw 10 1/3, allowed 6 hits, 2 earned run, hit 1 batter, walked 2, struck out 13. Well, that's not too bad.
Not bad at all. Yeah, the Rumble Ponies. It's like if you're not a Philly fan and you still go to Reading Phillies games, you get to see the Rumble Ponies every time and again. And if you're a Mets fan, Todd and Logan, like it's fun to see some of those guys because a couple years ago I saw Mauricio a game or two, and now he's up. So like it's fun to, or at least he's in AAA. Maybe I can't remember for sure. I thought he was up, but. To see some of those guys come up through the pipeline is a lot of fun, even if you're not a Philly fan.
Yeah, I mean, years ago when I got to throw the first pitch out for my dad at the Reading Phillies, because they were still the Reading Phillies back then, not the Reading Fightin' Phillies, which I'm saying, can you go back to the Reading Phillies? The Fightin' is just kind of dumb, my personal opinion. I don't remember who was down at that point. But I know I saw a couple players that night who did eventually crack the roster for the Phillies. And, you never know when you're going to see those future MLBers just balling out down there. So I love minor league baseball for that exact reason, because you just never know what you're going to see.
Yeah, and when I go to the Reading games, I mean, I go to a few of those a year. And when I'm going, I usually say to Jason, like, hey, who should I be looking for? Usually he never disappoints, because usually the guys I'm looking at, I'm like, man, I like this, I like that. And I'm usually giving him like an in-game report on how I feel about the guy. So, I mean, It's really fun to see the game grow in front of you when you go to the minor league games.
And I remember a couple years, right now, I think in our area, the best ticket you're going to see is Harrisburg Senators and Reading Phillies. Because the minor leagues, especially the AA level right now for the Phillies and the Nationals, is stacked. There is a ton of talent on those 2 teams, and they are fun to watch. That was one of the games you were at, wasn't it? Wasn't it a Philly Senators game?
Yeah, it was back a few months ago. It was a lot of fun. It was one of their openers, I think. What's really fun about those 2 is that they're playing the same team for like a week in AA, and so like you get to see a lot of stuff. And if you go there for a few games in a row, like you're seeing a lot of players at once, which is a lot of fun. And even just the one game, depending on how the pitching goes, you're seeing a lot of stuff. So
yeah,
it's truly a great time. So if you're a fan of baseball in general, in our area, I mean, the Reading Phillies is a great spot to go. It's a great ballpark. It's a lot of fun, and it's good to see some of that talent trickle in.
And one thing to remember too, I love going to Harrisburg. I love going to City Island to watch games up there. But one huge advantage that Reading will always have over Harrisburg, you're not going to be fighting the mayflies for the entire game, especially in the middle of the summer when it is just hot, sticky, and humid out there. Plus, Reading is, to my knowledge, is never flooded, which is something that the Harrisburg Senators cannot say.
Yeah, as far as I know, it hasn't.
Let's be real. If Reading flooded, you and I need to build a boat because if that stadium floods, we're in trouble.
Yeah, that's
I
a fair
remember a
point.
couple. Yeah, I remember a couple years ago when I was at a Senators game when they were playing Portland, Boston's Double A. I can't. I think it might have been Brian Balo. Um, Maybe Boston had one of their top 30 starting that night. That dude was pumping 98 to 102 gas, and the Senators did not touch him all night. You just never know what you're going to see when you go to a minor league game. So, always recommend you go to your local minor league team, support them, help keep them in town, show them your support, and you're going to see some good baseball along the way too. All right, rolling into the injury front, we have a couple more pitchers, some more Tommy John because another one bite the dust. Diamondbacks lost Justin Martinez, and the Tigers lost promising rookie Jackson Jobe. He's done now. Man, they got to do something. They've got to do something, and I know it needs to start at younger levels. We need to stop preaching that velo is everything. We need to start looking for guys that can paint the corners, but it's nuts how many guys we're losing to Tommy John every year.
I mean, with I enjoy watching pitching ninja videos, but the ones I enjoy the most are the ones where it's this much horizontal vertical break as opposed to the velo.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to see some of the control stuff happening. I don't know where the velo discussion has to happen. I think you change the culture at the major league level, it trickles down. This isn't something where high school coaches can make it trickle up. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's got to start from the top down. It's just the way it is with sports. So there's got to be a push to stop emphasizing velo. I mean, you have guys like, don't get me wrong, you got guys like Aroldis Chapman who can throw 103 and he's almost 40. But like there's guys who are throwing 103 and have some control, and then you have guys who are throwing 103 and have no control and their arm blows out. So there's got to be an answer to this. I don't think this is something where we have to, overemphasize anything with the pitch clock or anything like that. I don't necessarily feel like that's the problem. I feel like it's more the velo focus that's the issue here.
Yeah. There's too many kids getting their first Tommy John surgery in middle school and high school now. That's insanity. When we were in high school, and not to go when I was a kid, but seriously, when you and I were in high school, Tommy John was, maybe 3% of baseball players in Pennsylvania had to get Tommy John in high school or middle school.
Yeah.
And it's so much worse now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, like we said, the velo focus is a problem. I think, yeah, the triple digits are nice, but if you can, be a Jamie Moyer-esque pitcher and throw a low 90s, high 80s and pitch for 25 years, like that's a little bit more valuable to me. I'm sorry. It is. You have Kyle Hendricks, who's a control pitcher who had, I think, 5 or 6 strikeouts in a few innings last night. Like, actually, it was 9 strikeouts, I think. And he's doing that to the Yankees lineup at this point in his career. Like, that, there's a lot more to be said for that than there is for pumping the high gas.
Yeah, because a guy that can control his pitches and keep the ball down is not going to give up nearly as many home runs as a guy who's pumping high heat because a hanging slider is going to get killed no matter who threw it. But let's be real, the faster the pitch, the less force a batter needs to apply to the baseball to make it fly further. That's basic physics. It is easier to hit a home run on a 95-mile-an-hour fastball than it is on a 75-mile-an-hour change because you don't need to put as much force into the swing, which is also going to take as much time.
You need to tell that to my player in the show because I can't hit the 95 shit out.
Yeah, it's
The
probably
slower the
true.
better.
That's probably true. Yeah, Jamie Moyer, man, 25 years in the big leagues, 269 and 209. He threw 4,074 innings, man. That's a workhorse. He averaged 208 innings a year. I know he didn't pitch much his last couple years, but
Yeah, but still,
who
I
cares?
mean, to have the longevity, to have folks like Kyle Hendricks, who looked like he was on the way out, have the success he's now having in Anaheim. I mean, to have the decent year he's having, there's something to be said for control pitchers and longevity and being
Mhm.
able to have an impact on the game long term.
Yeah, and Jamie Moyer, man, he was fun. What do you throw? What he played for? What, 8 different clubs? I think something like that.
At
Mostly,
least, yeah,
yeah, mostly Seattle, Philadelphia, and Chicago. But he got all over the place.
he
And yeah,
did.
I know he gave up more home runs than any other pitcher. He only averaged 27 a year, which is not hateful. And that number was really badly driven by his 2004 campaign in Seattle when he gave up 44 in a single season.
Yeah,
So but take that out and you average it out 27 a year. It's a little high, but you know what? He was a workhorse. He got the job done. He had some good years. He's not going to ever be a Hall of Famer, but Hall of really good. And the fact that he had 33 complete games in there, he had 10 shutouts. That's not too bad at all.
no, not at all. Another thing on the injury front is, for those who are interested in it, is Shota from the Cubs, Shota Imanaga. It looks like he'll be back late next week, possibly. He was making some starts in Iowa. I think he started on Saturday or Sunday in Iowa, looking to go about 50 to 55 pitches. So it looks like he could be back next week, for those in fantasy and fans of the sport in general. So there'll be some interesting discussions in the Cubs organization as to who to move around to do what with. But um, he could be back late next week, it looks like, which, I mean, given where they started and only putting him on the 15-day and then ending up being, 8 weeks without him, um, they underscored just how long he was going to be out. But, I think that could be interesting to see what happens with him coming back for the
Yeah.
sport in general, at least.
Well, and I get not moving 8-week guys to the 60-day IL, because when you move them to the 60, yes, you open up a 40-man spot, but at the same time, then you're going to have to get their spot back. So you might need to expose a minor league guy you didn't want to expose and then take them back off. I understand why teams, if it's like a 6 to 8 thing, why they leave them on the 15-day and just replace
Yeah.
them on the active roster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with the way that they handled that part of it. It just kind of felt like they said, "Oh, they said it was so minor initially, and then it ends up being worse," kind
Yeah.
of thing. So under it, I think there's nothing that fans and regular followers of a team hate more than teams underselling how bad an injury is. And I think that's the only thing I hate about it. But the Cubs have been fortunate because the bullpen has done really well in the last
Mhm.
6-8 weeks, or at least the last six anyway. And they've had some performances, so there's a lot of things to decide between now and when Shota comes back. So, I mean, the fact that they've been fortunate to have some success with both Steele and Shota out is, Tyone's a godsend. So to have the decisions that the Cubs have to make is going to be interesting. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, all righty. So let's see here. A couple other small stories that popped up since Monday. A Dominican Republican singer named Neza, she was told by the Dodgers not to sing the Star Spangled Banner in Spanish. She said, quote, "The Dodgers tell me I can't sing the Spanish Star Spangled Banner, so I did." And she did. It was actually a very nice rendition of it. I found the video. Lovely singer. The Dodgers said, "Thank you very much. We asked you not to do this, and you won't be coming back. We're banning you as singer for the stadium."
Actually, that according to the LA Times and Athletic, she's not been banned.
Oh, okay.
There's been no official "you're banned from the park" thing. So that there any inkling to the contrary is inaccurate.
Okay, thank you.
But I mean, look, do it. The Dodgers asked her to do it a certain way. She did it a different way. There's been no punishment from the club, and I think that they've not said you're not invited back to the park in any capacity. So,
Yeah.
That's just an update on that.
No, I appreciate the update. I had not heard that. So, they warned her. She did it. She knew what the consequences would be, that she might not even be asked back ever again. To be honest, if there was an area to sing it in Spanish, Southern California is not the wrong place to do it. There's a huge Spanish-speaking population out there. But it's not like it's not like she's out there under social media whining about it. She knew that there were going to be consequences, and she's fine with it. It really was a lovely rendition, though. If you've never heard somebody sing it in Spanish, pull the video up. She did a lovely job. Then we also, and in the other realm of the FAFO line, where you screw around and find out, Castellanos got pulled out of he's out of the lineup for the first time in a very long time, year and a half, September 23rd, 2023. Rob Thompson pulled him out of the lineup on Monday night for defensive purposes, which, to be honest, I don't say I blame him. He is one of the lowest rated defenders in NFL. Nick got pissed, made inappropriate comments to Rob. So Rob said, "You're sitting on the bench tonight." So he did not play Tuesday, snapping that streak. And you know what? Once again, I have no issue with that. Castellanos has every right to speak his mind out. And if you're not able to do it respectfully to your manager has every right to sit your rear end on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, he was a long way from any records with the club. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing to sweat here.
Yeah, he wasn't on Iron. He wasn't close to Ironman contention. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the two active leaders to chase down Ripken's Ironman record, I think, are Matt Olson and Pete Alonso. And let's be real, they're not even close.
Right.
They're decades away.
I mean, this is I think, and I know Jason agrees kind of with this. Like, look, you're gonna do this. The manager can bench you if they want to, and they have, and the Phillies paid for it by losing last night. So, I mean, they lost, I think, 8-3 last night, and not to say that Castellanos would have been a game changer for sure, but Castellanos, FA and FO, but Phillies FA and FO by not playing him. So, potentially. So, is it a big story? No, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, 8-3 loss to the Marlins last night. I don't have an issue with the manager benching a player.
No,
that's their prerogative as the manager to do so. And as long as they're not making moves like that just to be a prick because they don't like the guy, then I've got no issue with it. If there seems to be like an obvious personal vendetta going on, I don't want to say Devers and Red Sox ownership, but yeah, I'm kind of thinking that. As long as there's no kind of personal vendetta going on, I mean,
it's hard to say there's a personal vendetta when the guy kept playing every other day or every day.
Yeah.
DH. So not really a vendetta there, and Devers makes out in the deal because he goes to a team that actually wants him to play for him. So
and a team that's playing really good baseball. So
right.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, those were the two other minorish stories I saw come down through. An idiotic comment I saw earlier today that I shared from Vince Vitrano, who apparently has never read the rules of baseball before and is proof that a blue check mark doesn't mean diddly squat by your name when you're still an idiot. It was in the Cubs. It was in the Cubs Brewers game. I think it was Tucker who batted. He hit one. It bounced off the right fielder's glove into the ivy, bounced back, and he said, "Oh no, off the magic ivy doesn't count as a catch." Like a third grader making up wiffle ball rules in the backyard. Chicago, did the ball stay in the yard? Yes. Did it hit the ground? No. Where else in baseball is that not a catch? I mean, in fairness, no one else has weeds growing on their walls. Buddy, that's the rule in every ballpark. If the ball bounces,
you do realize the plant is attached to the wall. So if it's going to bounce off the ivy, it has to hit the wall. This is not hard.
And let's be real. In every other ballpark where there's no ivy growing on the wall anywhere, if the ball bounces off the right fielder's glove, hits the wall, and they catch it, it's a live ball.
Right.
This is not wiffle ball. You cannot catch a bounce ball off a wall and call it an out. And I don't even think that's a rule in wiffle ball either. But I saw that earlier. I'm like, is this guy really trying to argue that it wasn't a hit because of the ivy? How stupid is this guy?
I mean, look, man, just because your home stadium isn't a home stadium when the Cubs come to play, I don't really give a shit.
I'm like, come on, man. And then there was an equipment violation balk, but I'll talk about that next week after the Braves Mets series is over. Boy, what a walk-off last night. Let's just keep the happy thoughts in Atlanta going, because if they do well this week and next week against NL East opponents, we actually might be able to salvage this damn season and start looking at a wild card spot.
Slow down, pal. Just slow down.
I know. I
mean, slow down. And
they've won 2 series in a row. They just need. I don't care about sweeps. I mean, I'd like to see them, but just keep the positive momentum. Just win damn series. If you win more than you lose.
I mean, the fact that you didn't sweep the Rockies is a disappointment. Let's not hide from that.
Oh, God, dude, that bullpen implosion is off. The fact that we didn't do more to fix the bullpen this offseason, which is something I said they needed to do in when was our first episode after the World Series last? Yeah, I said it then that the Braves needed to do more for their bullpen. And guess who was right about that? And I mean, I know Andopoulos knew that too, and I know the market wasn't great, and this, that, and everything else. But good God, I know we don't like spending money on free agent pitchers, but the fact that Andopoulos has scalped so many teams in very lopsided, one-sided trades, particularly on the pitching side, cough, Chris Sale, maybe you need to start shelling a little bit of money out on some of those free agent guys. I love how Jeff Hoffman failed a physical with us, and I think also with Baltimore. And both Baltimore and Atlanta would do almost anything to improve their bullpen at this point. And Jeff Hoffman is, chugging right along in Toronto. I mean, it's not the best year. He has a 5.52 ERA, but he does have 17 saves, which is more than I could say about Raisel Iglesias right now, who really needs to be demoted down to a setup man role, in my humble opinion. Not that anybody asked it. All right, so let's roll it into the hot list. Jason's hot hitter from last week was Elly De La Cruz, who had a ridiculous week. 29 at bats, 32 plate appearances. He slashed 414, 469, 897. For those that don't feel like doing the math in their head quickly, that's a 1.365 OPS. Not too shabby. 8 runs, 12 hits, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 1 stolen base, 1 caught stealing, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. That's not too shabby.
No, not at all.
And mine was Ronald Acuna Jr., 619, 692, 1.095, a 1.788 OPS, 21 at-bats, 9 runs, 3 homers, 6 ribbies, 1 stolen base, 13 hits, a double, 5 walks, 1 strikeout. Acuna is seeing the ball and hitting the ball very well right now. Moneyball, I pulled for you, Joe. Evan Carter of the Texas Rangers, an outfielder. Slash line last week of 444, 545, 889, 18 at bats, 7 runs, 8 hits, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks to 0 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases, 1 caught stealing. How'd I do picking Moneyball?
That wasn't too bad. I love, a lot of times I focus on runs, hits, walks, on base percentage, but Usually the determinant factor a lot of times is that strikeout number, and it's nice to see somebody not strike out for
Yeah.
a week. We need to bring back an emphasis on striking out not being a good thing.
To quote the first ballot Hall of Famer, Chipper Jones, batters need to start feeling bad when they strike out again like they used to. All I'm going to say. Larry might know a thing or two, being the only switch hitter to go 300 or better from both sides of the plate. Just saying, he might know a thing or two. Our hot pitchers this week from Jason, Zach Wheeler, 1-0 in 2 starts, 16 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, 7 hits, a walk, a home run, a 1.5 ERA, a .67 whip. And like an idiot, I forgot to write down innings pitched for Wheeler. But anyway, regardless, it was a good week for Wheeler. Oh, no, wait, I have it over here. I've got too many tabs open, Joe. That was over 12 innings. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
And then I also had Quinn Priester for myself. He went 2-0 in 2 starts, 12 innings, 10 Ks, 2 earned runs, 11 hits, no walks, no homers, 1.5 ERA, and a .92 whip. So those were two of the top pitchers last week. The adulting reliever I picked, I decided to go with a Marlins pitcher. Not a lot to love in Miami this year, but Calvin Falker had a great week last week. 3 for 3 in save opportunities, 2 1/3, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, no walks. He did have a hit by pitch. So an ERA of 0, a .86 whip, and a .222 batting average against.
Not so bad. Mr. Pillion would be proud.
Yeah, good God. I wish Raisel Iglesias would hit the adulting reliever mark once this freaking season.
Doesn't look likely based on my metrics. And if he couldn't make it on when you're doing it, my God.
No, no, it ain't looking good at all.
No.
Joe, what do you got for hot teams right now?
Well, I think, despite the trade they made for Devers, I think the Red Sox are in good shape. They've been playing really well the last week and a half. Houston overperformed a lot of expectations from the beginning of the season. So to have that be in first place in a comfortable spot, to me, makes them a hot team right now.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the Reds have been performing exceptionally well in the last 10, I think they're 8-2. And they're the only team in major leagues who haven't been swept yet this year, believe it or not, after the Mets were swept by the Rockies this weekend. So, it's an interesting dynamic, to say the least. The fact that the Reds are the only team that hasn't been swept all year, and I think Jason put that stat in the chat, so hat tip to Jason there. But and I think the Giants too, because the Giants have just been steadily maintaining position and then making the Devers trade. That makes them that's lightning in a bottle, man, for these guys. And I think they have a good potential to have a lot of success. And funnily enough, the Giants play the Red Sox this weekend. So get your popcorn ready. That'll be fun.
I can't wait for that series. Not going to lie. Very much have popcorn popped and ready to go because there's going to be some fireworks probably. And, who's going to be upset? I certainly won't be. Anytime it's not one of my teams going and there's fireworks to watch, I am all in on that. I do want to point out one thing, Joe. Of everybody that was on for the NL Central, AL Central preview, who was the one person that thought the Reds were not going to be complete ass this year?
I don't know.
That would be me. So I'm happy to see that they're finally not playing like that and playing pretty well. I got to say, not Reds is the last team to be swept was definitely not on my bingo card this year.
Well, I mean, there was a lot in that NL AL Central episode back at the beginning of the season where, there was a lot of discussion about the Francona effect, and I believe it's real.
Yeah, it's absolutely real.
It's absolutely real, and congrats to the Reds for keeping it as close as they have been, at least from a competitive standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting swept so far this year, like we mentioned, and being in the thick of it, because I mean, a couple things go the wrong way in the NL West and the NL East. Like you're getting two teams in from the NL Central, and that could be wild.
Yeah. And there's a lot of metrics working out in the Reds' favor right now. They're plus 42 in the run differential coming into games tonight. Their expected win loss is 41 and 32. So they're actually by that, and that's based on their record with the runs scored, runs allowed. So they're actually slightly underperforming right now. They're at 500 on the road. They're a little over 500 at home, and they're doing a little better than 500 against opponents that are over 500 right now. So the advanced metrics are looking good for the Reds right now. I would not be surprised to see them stay hot. They're a young team, and they've got a ton of talent. They've got one of the best players in the entire league in Ellie. So they're fun. They're fun, and I don't think they've got enough in the tank to compete for the division this year. But they will absolutely push for a wild card this year, and I hope to God ownership doesn't screw up and sell off like they often do. Remember this was a team that just as soon as 2020 was a playoff team, and they decided to sell the freaking house after that for reasons. Still,
even in 23, they were within reach of the wild card. In 22, they were, I think, in the playoffs. So the fact that they sold off there, I mean, obviously they believed in the talent they brought in, but and the proof's in the pudding right now as a young team. But there's a lot to be excited about in Cincinnati, I think, with the talent that's around that club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Cincinnati fans. You guys are in for a treat for the next couple of years while these young guys keep coming up and hopefully continue to play well. All right, looking at the week ahead as we have to scroll farther and farther down the first half schedule, as the first half will be coming to a close in about 3.5 weeks from now. Season's been flying so far. So Atlanta this week, they have the Mets at home. They won last night in a walk-off 5-4. They are currently leading. I think they were up 5-0 last time I saw. Hopefully that's continued, although I don't want to jinx myself yet. Still 5-0. By the way, Joe, first time the Acuñas have been together on the same field at the major league level, so that's got to be pretty cool for both of them. I know last night they got pictures of Ronnie giving Luis Angel a hug after he got in his second, either on a double or if he was stolen base. So that was pretty cool to see. Tonight was Sale and Blackburn. Tomorrow is Strider and Holmes. And then Atlanta continues through the weekend. 3 at Miami. Elder versus Perez, Holmes versus Alcantara, and Schwellenbach versus Quantrill on Sunday. And then it's right back against the Mets next week, 4 on the road in New York. Sale versus Blackburn again, because MLB likes to stack teams on top of each other, even though it drives me up a wall. Strider versus Holmes, Elder versus TBD, Holmes versus Canning on Thursday. And then Friday, the 27th through the 29th, they'll be home for Philadelphia. And what we have at that point is Schwellenbach, Abel, Sale, Luzardo, and of course no probables for Sunday yet because we're a little too far out for that. So we'll have plenty of discussion on that one next week when Jason's back. Hopefully all the technical issues are resolved by that point. For the Orioles this week, they are at home they're in the road at Tampa this week. Lost 7-1 Monday, lost 5-1 yesterday. Tonight, Rogers versus Bradley, Morton versus Rasmussen on Thursday. And then they head to New York for the Yankees, Seguano versus Fried, Eflin versus Schmidt, Kremer versus Warren. Joe, I don't know about you. I'm only seeing maybe 2 wins in that lineup, maybe 3 if they're lucky. They're not beating Fried, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's been a tough sled. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The Cubbies, on the other hand, where things are looking pretty peachy other than my bet with you, on Tuesday they beat the Brewers 5-3. Tonight got rained out. Are they doing a doubleheader this week?
No, they're not making that up till August.
What do you think? Would you rather do the doubleheader in the current series, or would you rather have a doubleheader late in the year?
I mean, personally, for me, I probably feel like I'd rather have it now. But I mean, it's getaway day because they're going to. It's Thursday tomorrow, and they're playing
Seattle on Friday at home.
Seattle, they're home the rest of the week. So I mean, do I feel like a doubleheader would have been a hard ask tomorrow? No. But I mean, there's not another off day until the 30th of June, which I realize isn't long, but
They've played a lot of games in a row, though.
right. So I mean, to be home from Milwaukee and Seattle, they're finally going to play the Cardinals next Monday. They play the Cardinals and the Astros away next week, and then have the off day, and then they're home for another week. So it's there's a lot. I mean, does it probably fit better in the schedule in August right now when you have a 4-game stretch and you're going to have basically 5 games in 4 days now?
Yeah, that's not too bad.
I mean, they're gonna have that week because it's a doubleheader now on the 18th. They're gonna play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14 games in a row with the doubleheader on one day.
Hey, they should have done it now.
And they're going to be in Toronto for the first part of that, home for the, for the 5, and then 3 with the Pirates at home too. So they're home for 8, and then they're away on the West Coast for the other 3 parts of that stretch. So, I mean, do I feel like that makes? Do I feel like having a home schedule, this weekend makes more sense to play tomorrow? Probably, but you know what? It is what it is. There's nothing we can do about the schedule. So
yeah, it's true.
To me, the more maddening thing is the fact that you've got, the Braves are playing the Mets, the Phillies, and the Mets all within 10 days, and the Cubs not playing the Cardinals until finally on Monday, and it being June 25th or June 23rd basically. To not play the Cardinals till that far in the season is a little stupid.
Well, this is our first series with the Mets. It's the same thing.
Right.
I hate this new schedule, and I've written about it a bunch, and I'm not going to get into it more tonight, but this is bad. You should not be starting. You shouldn't be having your first series with a division team in June, ever. And then for you guys, as you mentioned, it's Seattle at home then to finish off the week. That's Horton Kirby, Boyd Hancock, and Rhea Gilbert on Sunday. Again, that's also, Shohei will be slotted in at some point too.
Probably next week. He won't be back till next week sometime.
Yeah. I can't wait to see him back. I love watching that guy pitch. He's fun.
Yeah.
And then for the Phillies, they're playing what I call a trap series because it's the Marlins, a team that by all rights they should beat the snot out of. But the Marlins, as we have pointed out on this show many times over the years, terrify Jason like nothing else because they are the one team in the East that no matter how bad they are, they will always play up to the Phillies level and beat them a maddening number of times when they otherwise shouldn't because of the talent disparity. Now the Phillies they're off to a good start. They took 2 out of the first 3. Abel beat Alcantara on Monday 5-2. They lost yesterday 8-3. Luzardo took the loss. Tarnock the win. They won 4-2 tonight. Suarez took the win. Mazur took the loss. And then tomorrow is Sanchez versus Cabrera. And then the Mets go to Philadelphia for a 3-gamer. Wheeler versus TBD Friday, Abel versus Canning on Saturday, Luzardo versus Peterson on Sunday, and then the Phillies get a travel day, and then they are on the road for 6 for Houston and Atlanta over the week after. So more on that next week.
Yeah, the reason for that TBD with the Mets is that McGill's now on the IL.
Oof. Okay.
So just for clarity, I think that's when he fits into this rotation because he was a part of the loss over the weekend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so now he's on the IL. So that's that TBD for the Mets this week. So it'll be interesting to see what the Mets are able to do now that they're finally hitting some bigger bumps in the road when it comes to pitching depth. So
just FYI, the San Francisco and Boston series will be held in San Francisco this upcoming weekend. So that'll be, again, that's going to be much-see TV. Do they head back out to Boston? No. So Devers is going to avoid the trip back to Boston this year. So, oh boy, that's going to be a fun homecoming next year. When the fans have had a whole year to think about it and get really pissed off. I can't wait for that. But yeah, there will be probably be some fireworks out in San Francisco this weekend at some point.
Yeah, either next year or later this year in October, if both teams are lucky to get there, that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't have Boston, San Francisco in my prediction. I don't know if I want to root for that too hard.
I'm not saying to root for it. I'm just saying it could be fun.
Although, to be fair, my AL pick is out because I'm pretty sure I picked the Orioles. I know they're not officially out, but let's be real. For the Orioles to come back and get into the playoffs at this point, it's going to be a minor miracle as they are at 31-41, 11 back and 6 out of the wild card. Not dead by any small measure of anything. I mean, we're 12 back and 6.5 in the wild card, and we're not dead either. But I don't. At least we have some pitching, even if our bullpen sucks. I don't really know that Baltimore has any pitching to back up their hitting. So there's that. All right, Joe. Anything else for you tonight?
Nope.
All right, guys. Audio recordings are available on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you find podcasts. Live, we're on YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. We're sponsored by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the Baron Barbershop over in Mannheim. Go see Johnny. He'll give you a nice cut and a nice trim on the beard. And always great conversation over there as well. Just FYI to anybody going out that way, Johnny's a Yankees fan. So if the Yankees are in a losing streak, you might need to boost him back up, kind of like right now. If they're in a winning streak, he will not stop yapping your ears off about Aaron Judge. Guys, may your dog always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good one. We will see you next Monday.